Hi, I'm Sohail Safari, and this is my game stage presentation. So, for my game stage presentation, I chose diamonds. So today we're going to be talking about a diamond mining operation. The main goal of my company is to develop an ethical operation that aims to aid a developing country. The country that I chose, Sierra Leone, because we talked about it and it's extremely controversial because of the incident that took place through the 90s until 2003 during the Civil War over the coveted blood diamonds. And as you can see in the image, this is the film, which was based around the premise of this idea in this time. And this is part of the reason which I chose to do this topic. Not only is my aim to aid Sierra Leone in the development of their infrastructure and their economy as well, but to provide the people with the ability to escape their poverty situation and also while minimizing the environmental impact. Sierra Leone is extremely rich in resources. From research, I found that not only is it rich in diamonds, but there's also resources that it is rich in as well because of the soil composition. And this is also, as we studied in class, we found that Sierra Leone was known for having abundances in many minerals and being rich in resources. The term blood diamonds comes from controversy of these diamonds where the Civil War was basically fueling the economy for these, or the demand for these diamonds. And as mentioned, my goals is to create the opportunity that will benefit the economy of Sierra Leone and help the people uprise from the situation. Also, to bring fairness to the workers which are working for the mine, because through research I found that they're only making around $7 or $8 a day mining, which is one of the better opportunities in the country, though the the diamond industry is a huge industry and extremely profitable, especially in the uh, luxury uh, item industry. And as mentioned, I'm ideally going to be not only ethical and help the political situation in Sierra Leone, but also be environmentally friendly at the same time. As we've seen many times before, developing countries are often taken advantage of for their resources because other countries don't want to do the dirty work, or developed countries don't want to do the dirty work in their own countries. Oftentimes, they'll go to a country that is richer and easier to sort of find these resources and cheaper, especially to mine these different kinds of resources or extract them. And at the end, there really is not too much remediation because these countries are already just developing. They're not developed countries. And there's no real interest in actually establishing these countries to help them as uh, as to become developed countries on their own and even help the people. So my company goal is to change the ways of the past and to create a sustainable solution that aids the locals and countries' economies. This has been seen many times before, not only for minerals and gold and diamonds, but also with oil in the Middle East, where countries like the US take advantage of political situation to just infiltrate and also uh, at the same time extract these countries of their resources while making it seem like it's a war-torn country. And not to go too off topic, but yeah. So our goal is to help people in Sierra Leone to shape their future rather than to just get by day to day, because the wages that they're earning are really just a fraction of the cost of the industry, or the uh, revenue earned from the diamonds in the industry. And our goal is to offer them a more competitive wage and to help not only the people but also the areas to develop infrastructure and uh, have more access to electricity and better roads, which will not only benefit the people but also benefit our operation in Sierra Leone. So through some research, I found that most of the uh, mining in Sierra Leone is alluvial mining, and this will likely have to be the best option just because of the soil composition and the nature of Sierra Leone as it is. And therefore, open pit will likely not be a viable option. Uh, this means that we'll probably have to go with secondary deposit just because a lot of the diamonds and other resources will be found in the surface of the waterbeds and different areas of Sierra Leone. And I don't think there's any issue with demand because of the large demand, especially in manufacturing, which makes up 80% of the industry, and also the luxury good industry is likely not to change uh, the demand because of the marketing of diamonds as for marriage purposes and other purposes as well. The problem associated with alluvial mining is the risk with stagnant water, which brings the risk of malaria. And additionally, the exposure to chemicals in these uh, mines also can expose the miners to these chemicals. And also, these chemicals can also seep into the waterbed and the agriculture in the area. Additionally, deforestation is another environmental impact that is of concern, as well as the wildlife in the area, because a lot of these areas are rich in their flora, fauna, and mining oftentimes causes vast deforestation and causes many of the inhabitants of the area, animals and people, to be affected greatly, and communities to be affected greatly by the operations. Our goal is to not have too much of an impact, keep the mining localized, and also bring out a sophisticated source system as seen in this image above, and as I'll show in the next image on the next slide, which is of a alluvial mining setup by CDE Group, and ideally our mine will have something similar. So the goal is to have a sophisticated alluvial mining setup in order to minimize the damage to the area and minimize these risks, which are generally associated with mining in a vast area with poor mitigation processes and poor planning, additionally, during the mining stage. So, additionally, as mentioned before, we will ideally offer employees competitive wages and ideally start a movement to aid the people to rise up from their current situation to uh, benefit the shortcomings basically of the country because of the past and because of larger companies coming in and basically taking advantage and really offering the people in these communities just a fraction of what they really deserve and what the inhabitants of their own countries are likely making. Just because it's outsourced, they offer these people much less wages, which are competitive in the area. Actually, one of these opportunities is generally one of the better opportunities in the area. I think it's important to plan these methods to combat the previously discussed negative impacts, just because otherwise we'd be essentially doing what's already been done and just paying people more. And that's not the goal here. The goal here is to reduce the environmental impact, be more careful in the planning, and come up with a solution to actually aid the people in their predicament and pay them what they're meant to be paid. And also not leave too much impact. Leave Sierra Leone as it was found, an abundant uh, natural resource uh, place. The remediation process is extremely important as well in order to uh, or avoid too much deforestation and too much impact on the wildlife in the area, as well as to be careful not to allow such negative impacts or uh, to have a negative impact on the water table and the agriculture in the area in the nearby areas. And the causes of deforestation are likely to cause mudslides, as we saw in Congo, which has a devastating impact on the communities in the area. As you can see in the image above, extracting and processing will likely be extremely difficult because of the lack of infrastructure in Sierra Leone, and this will cause processing and mining to be potentially extremely costly or in some cases impossible. Outsourcing will likely be required for processing, or careful planning will have to take place in order to be able to execute the mine effectively. Even outsourcing, because of the infrastructure issues, will probably be another issue which will have to be well thought out, because in some cases where there's really very remote access to certain areas, it'll be very difficult to actually even outsource certain processes. Ideally, a system can be created that will eventually develop the infrastructure. This development will also aid our process and our profitability by making it easier to access these areas and far less costly, and even promote community growth by providing jobs for this infrastructure that needs to be put in place. From the learning outcomes, I found that Sierra Leone has very deeply rooted issues dating back to the 90s, even from the civil wars that took place over the controversial diamonds, which initially uh, got me interested in the whole topic. And these sorts of issues and the corruption that is going on and being kind of stuck in their ways will likely make it very difficult to make mining effective, ethical, and have minimal impact. But I think there needs to be a sort of shift in ideas surrounding the mining industry in Sierra Leone and the idea of going into another country and taking all the wealth from a country to prosper on your own. I think the area, as mentioned before, is more catered to secondary mining. And as discussed, this will bring risks with malaria and environmental impacts. But I think the sophisticated system uh, by CDE groups and other related sort of companies poses a great solution to actually be able to make alluvial mining potentially profitable for not only the people but also for our company as well, and also the development of the infrastructure. Ideally, my company will be a stepping stone towards change to Sierra Leone's decade long sort of struggle of just getting by day to day and provide them with a bright outlook for the future. This idea might seem uphill given the state of the infrastructure and the lack of electricity in certain areas, especially these remote areas, and because of the sort of history. But I think there is potential here, and definitely there's profitability for not only the people but also for uh, our company because of the resource-rich area that Sierra Leone is. And I also learned from some research that Sierra Leone is trying to bring about change, as you'll see in the next couple slides. I think to truly change Sierra Leone, it will be a massive undertaking, and maybe one company is big enough to actually accomplish this feat. But one company might be a stepping stone to a movement that can change this country and the people in it and the ideas behind this sort of uh, going into a country and extracting out resources and leaving it as a barren wasteland. I think using a sophisticated alluvial extraction method potentially might be the way to actually reduce the environmental impact and prevent the people from being exposed, or the workers from being exposed to um, stagnant water that is often found for alluvial extraction. And also, this water will ideally be uh, not only the water, but the waste materials will ideally be removed appropriately with the state of the art alluvial system. From some research, I also found that Sierra Leone itself is trying to change the regulations. Some of the regulations that have changed after the Civil War since 2003 have, they're numerous. One of the ones that I found has to do with environmental regulations being changed that were previously very lax, but have become a lot more stringent on what companies can and can't do. And there's also been regulations put in place to govern foreign investment to not allow for these sort of situations to take place where the country is left basically in shambles after some foreign country comes in and just extracts what's needed and leaves. There's also been anti-money laundering laws, anti-corruption acts, and many more acts put in place to aid the Sierra Leone through its legislation. So in conclusion, I found it's very difficult due to infrastructure the political situation, corruption, and the previous ways that people have entered Sierra Leone and the history of Sierra Leone to enter into the diamond industry in this place. But I believe there's some feasibility, especially since it is resource rich. The people are very driven to improve their state of living, and I think offering the people a sort of ticket to get out and also to help the people rather than to extract what is uh, extract them for what they have and leave them as a barren wasteland. Leave it as a barren wasteland. I think that's an old ideology, and ideally, the new ideology, which I'm trying to pass with my mining operation, will be shared with uh, larger companies, as discussed in several of the topics covered in this course, and hopefully it will bring about change to the mining operations of the future. The mining method of alluvial mining is at question, but I think there is feasibility of this operation due to the fact that as time goes on, more sophisticated operations are possible. And I think that in this case, this is necessary. And I think that alluvial mining is one of the only ways that mining can be done in a country like Sierra Leone, just because of the soil sort of composition and the remoteness of certain areas, the lack of infrastructure to allow access to these sort of areas. I think the idea is the right idea to bring change, though a large scale shift must be made, not only from uh, people entering or companies entering Sierra Leone, companies in general around the world must follow the same sort of shift in order for change to actually happen. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Have a good one.